Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. The funeral of Emperor Guangxu was an extremely luxurious historical event, symbolizing the end of an era and provoking profound reflection on the late Qing dynasty's rule. Here, we will discuss in detail Emperor Guangxu's life, his death, the opulence of his funeral, and the historical context it reflects. Emperor Guangxu's life, a powerless emperor. Emperor Guangxu, born Zhou Zitian in 1871, ascended the throne at the age of 4, becoming the 11th emperor of the Qing dynasty. His reign lasted 34 years, and Guangxu was the penultimate era name of the Qing dynasty. It was also the era name of Emperor Dezhong, Zhou Zitian, and was continued by Puyi after his accession. He used the era name Guangxu throughout his reign, from February 25, 1875, when he ascended, until his death on November 14, 1908. However, his entire imperial career was overshadowed by the control of Empress Dowager Cixi, and he never actually wielded real power. Guangxu's character was gentle and inherently weak, unable to withstand the despotism of the Empress Dowager. Nevertheless, he harbored personal ambitions and yearned to achieve something, especially after the First Sino-Japanese War, when he began contemplating national reform, ultimately leading to the 100 Days Reform. In 1898, Emperor Guangxu promoted the 100 Days Reform, intending to revitalize the increasingly weakened Qing dynasty through a series of reforms. However, less than 2 months into the reforms, he faced strong opposition from conservative factions led by Empress Dowager Cixi, resulting in the failure of the reform and Guangxu's confinement in Yingtai. From then on, he was completely sidelined politically, becoming a puppet emperor. Despite Guangxu's ambitious nature, his fate was inextricably linked to Cixi's control. His loneliness and helplessness during his lifetime reflected the Qing dynasty's declining imperial power amidst internal strife and external threats. It can be said that Guangxu's life was filled with tragedy, and his fate vividly embodied the demise of the Qing dynasty. On the afternoon of November 14, 1908, Emperor Guangxu passed away alone in the Yingtai Hanyuan Hall, in Beijing, at the age of 38. There has always been controversy regarding the cause of his death. Later scientific research confirmed that he had a large amount of arsenic in his body, leading many to speculate that he was poisoned. However, at the time, no one dared to reveal the truth, and the official record simply stated that he died of illness. When Emperor Guangxu died, there was no one close by. He faced his final moments alone. This emperor of the Qing dynasty did not enjoy the honors he deserved during his lifetime. But after his death, his luxurious funeral restored some of the dignity befitting an emperor. The opulence of the funeral, a lavish farewell. Although Emperor Guangxu lived a solitary life, his funeral was extraordinarily lavish, marking the Qing dynasty's final opulent farewell. Reports indicate that the funeral cost a total of 450,000 taels of silver, with as many as 7,920 people carrying the coffin. And the entire process lasted for several months. The scale of this funeral was astonishing. On March 12, 1909, Guangxu's funeral procession officially began. Since he had not constructed a burial site during his lifetime, the court decided to temporarily place his coffin in the western Qing tombs at Pangeswang. The distance from the Forbidden City to Pangeswang is over 100 kilometers. And although a railway was already operational, the court ultimately decided to use the most primitive method, walking for the procession. This decision led to a massive turnout, with the total number of participants, including onlookers, possibly exceeding 100,000. The funeral procession was grand in scale and quite spectacular. In front were the Qing cavalry clearing the way, followed by a ceremonial guard of over 1,300 people. Emperor Guangxu's coffin was carried by a lucky sedan adorned with 5-clawed golden dragons. This sedan was extremely luxurious, measuring over 5 meters in width and more than 4 meters in height. Elaborately decorated. The number of bearers alone reached 7,920. Organized into 60 teams, each consisting of 128 people, with an additional 240 backup personnel available to ensure that fatigued bearers could be replaced at any time. Due to the slow progress of the funeral procession, the entire event lasted 4 days and 3 nights. Ultimately, Emperor Guangxu's coffin was temporarily placed at the Pangaswang Palace, where it remained for 5 years before being officially buried in Qianlong. This long, extravagant funeral allowed Guangxu to enjoy a true imperial treatment in death, yet it reflected the contradictions of extravagance and impotence at the end of the Qing dynasty. According to some historians, the opulence of Guangxu's funeral was partly a compensatory gesture from the court for his failure to display imperial power during his life. However, the grandeur of the funeral procession did not command the respect of the populace. When the coffin passed by, tradition dictated that people should kneel in mourning, yet most bystanders stood upright, and no one knelt. This indifferent response clearly demonstrated the waning prestige of the Qing dynasty among the people, and even the Qing troops responsible for maintaining order did not force anyone to kneel. The authority of the Qing government was already crumbling, and the loss of popular support was inevitable. Moreover, during Guangxu's mourning period, restrictions on marriages and entertainment sparked public dissatisfaction. According to the famous writer Xia Yan, the common people expressed significant grievances regarding these limitations, further intensifying their resentment towards Qing rule. Guangxu's mausoleum should have been completed long before, but various reasons led to continuous delays in his funeral. It wasn't until December 13, 1913, that Guangxu was finally laid to rest in Qianlong of the Western Qing tombs. The construction of Qianlong took many years and involved immense labor. The site was chosen in Qianlong Valley, and at its peak, over 20 contractors and more than 6,000 workers were on site simultaneously. However, due to an empty treasury, progress was slow, and the mausoleum remained unfinished even as the Qing dynasty faced its demise. Ultimately, Guangxu's coffin was stored at Pangaswang Palace for 5 years until it was buried in Qianlong in 1913. The completion of Qianlong not only marked the end of Guangxu's life but also symbolized the inevitable conclusion of the Qing dynasty. Despite the extravagance of Guangxu's funeral, it mirrored the growing weakness of the Qing dynasty. The court spent enormous sums to organize a grand funeral in an attempt to restore the dignity that the emperor had failed to display during his life. Yet this vain extravagance did not alter the fate of the Qing dynasty. Instead, it further exposed the government's depletion of national strength and neglect of people's livelihoods. The tragedy of Guangxu's life reflects the national fate at the end of the Qing dynasty. He sought to save the Qing through reforms, but his efforts ultimately failed due to internal corruption and external aggression. After his death, the Qing dynasty's fate continued on an irreversible path of decline. Some historians comment that Guangxu's funeral was an extraordinarily lavish ceremony, yet it revealed the decay and weakness of the late Qing period. This funeral not only summarized Guangxu's personal fate but also represented a final farewell to the Qing's inability to rescue the nation's destiny. Throughout history, Guangxu's life is tragic. His unfulfilled aspirations during his lifetime received no due respect after his death. Although his funeral was luxurious, it could not conceal the fact that Qing rule was already approaching its end. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone, and see you in the next time.